Hello, my Stampin' friends. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to teach you how to make this fun fold card. We're going to use the Everyday Details Cling Stamp Set from Stampin' Up, this image, and this will be in the inside. The Happy Birthday is from the Something Fancy stamp set, and this is kind of fun. So you open it up, you got your image, and then a little surprise. Wishing you so much joy on this special day. Got a little tips for you on how to get that working properly for you, and then we're going to do some coloring with the Stampin' Blend. So I'll give you a few tips for that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Linda Edwards. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I would love to help you release your inner creativity. So anything you see today is available for purchase on my online store at craftyherondesigns.com. Let's put that aside and start with the card kit. So we'll start, of course, with an envelope. And these are the dies. So our card base is just a standard card base, 8.5 by 5.5, and scored at 4 1/4. And then the inside piece, there's an inside layer that is white, basic white, and it is cut 8 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and it is scored at 4 6, and that's our little mechanism. And then I have a piece of designer series paper. This paper is no longer available through Stampin' Up. It's called Earth and Elegance. You certainly might have some, but you could use anything that's kind of a natural background. And obviously you can use any stamp set to make this card as well. So go ahead and use what materials you have on hand. This is the cut at 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So that's a good layer. And then this little piece of designer series paper, this is actually the zinnia paper, which is currently available online only. And it is 5 inches by 1 3/4 inches. And then I've got a couple of pieces of scrap that we'll use. This is probably 2.5 by 2.5. And it needs to fit our little die. So the dies we're using are the Deckled Circles dies, and this is the Stylish Shapes die, and the Everyday Details die as well. So the Everyday Details stamp set comes with this die, and you can see that it's got multiple shapes. So there are 11 dies in this stamp set, and they nest, which is really nice. So this is the largest of the circles from that Everyday Details die. So I usually like to get started with the stamping, so let's go ahead and get that going. I'm going to set that other stuff aside, and I'm going to start with Memento black ink because we're going to use it with our Stampin' Blends. I like to write that right on my Memento so that I remember that that's the ink that we need to use. So this is a really cool, I'm a bird watcher, so I have a thing for bird nests and eggs and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and ink up this nest. And one of the things I like about this, because of the size of it, I'm gonna put the stamp on the table, keep it level, and I'm applying the ink to the stamp. Now the Memento ink pads are up, they're like a felt, or a little more like a linen, I guess. So they're a little different than your standard classic ink pads. So just be aware of that. It's good to practice a few times before you go ahead and do it on your actual paper, although, you know, it's just paper, so it's not a big deal if it's not perfect. And I'm gonna just stamp it in the center here, and then of course we will cut it out afterwards. So press, don't rock it, just press and hold. I want it to absorb in the paper. Now I am using just thick basic white paper. You could use watercolor paper, but because I'm using the blends, I wanted to use the thick paper. Just be aware that as you color, you do have to be a little bit careful. If you're using a paper that's thinner, just don't do a lot of detail. For this particular stamp set, there really isn't a lot of coloring, so it's not really a big deal. I'm gonna let that set aside for just a minute to dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring in the Balmy Blue and the Happy Birthday, which I don't have sitting here. Hold on one second. I'm getting ready for another class tomorrow, and that's where that stamp set is, because I'm going to use it again. So, let's see, here it is. All right, so here's our little happy birthday. I do really like this one. It's nice and straightforward. And all right, I'm going to just ink it up in balmy blue to match the balmy blue background of our card. And put this aside. You know what? I need to put it right back in that box, because you know what's going to happen. I'm going to go to class tomorrow and I'll be like, oh, I forgot to bring it. All right, that's going to be die cut there, but I don't want to die cut this one until I'm done coloring it. So let's do that now. That way I can do all the die cutting at once. I think I'm going to start with my leaves. Now our Stampin' Blends come in a light and a dark color. This is light old olive and dark old olive. And you can see they have a brush tip and then they have a fine tip. And since this is such a small image, I'm going to use the fine tip today. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the light because, again, these are just tiny little leaves. So I can add a little bit more if I feel like I need it. But, you know, we're really not going to do any real shading here. They're just too small. You'd never even notice it. So we'll just kind of quickly go through this and color these leaves. And to a certain extent, all I'm really doing is kind of dotting it, you know, for the smaller ones especially, just kind of very carefully putting color to paper. I do like to wait just a minute or two to give that Memento ink a chance to dry before I actually start with the blends. It's not generally a problem, but just in case, I may do just a little bit. Now you can't even see it. It doesn't, no point. You won't even see it. All right, so that's the blue. Let's do the eggs next. Now I will do a little bit of shading with the eggs, and different people have different preferences. I like to start with the darker color, and I can see where Stampin' Up's given us these lines. That's going to be some shading, so I know there's shading there. And if I think about, well, if there was light shining on this image, where would the shadows be? That's kind of what I think about when I'm deciding where I want my shading to be. So I look at, well, this egg is in the back, so he's going to be shaded the most, right? And then this one is layered underneath that one, so there will be some shading there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit right there. And then there will be some shading under the nest. So that's how I'm deciding where to put my shading. Now when I come over with my light balmy blue, I'm gonna turn it around just so that it's easier, because what I want to do is I'm going to go over the dark and I want to blend the dark into the light. So you can see where I'm kind of dragging that, where the dark color is, dragging that out and blending those lines so that I don't get a really sharp image. The other thing that I want to do is I want it to be light. If you think about an egg, it's rounded, right? It's oval, obviously. And so the part at the top is going to have the lightest, it's going to be the lightest. So I'm trying not to do too many layers. I'm kind of leaving a little bit of like a lighter color there. The other thing you can do is come in with a color lifter and give it a little bit of, use the color lifter in some areas on the eggs. So I don't know if you can see how they're, you know, they're not just a solid color. They've got a little variation to them. And then the last thing I'm going to do is come in with the pecan pie. Or no, this is actually the bronze, but you could use the pecan pie as well. So this is the bronze. I am going to just go over the nest and the edge of, I think I'm going to just go with the big part here with the brush edge, but it's a little hard to kind of control. So I'll do it briefly there, and then I'm going to come in with the thin end and go where it's closer to the edges of the image, the nest, then I can get kind of closer. It's just one color. I'm not doing any shading. Again, I'm letting the image itself go ahead and provide the shading. So this one's very straightforward. The only shading is really on those eggs. So it helps them stand out a little bit more as well. There you go. Very straightforward, but I think it's a really pretty image. And you know what I realized? I think that's a leaf right there. So I'm gonna come in, and that'll happen. You know, you don't really realize until you get all the image shaded that maybe there are some other shapes that show up. So I'm gonna do that. So, okay, that's it. That's our coloring. So we're gonna set it aside. The only other stamping we have is gonna be inside, but I'm gonna wait to do that until we get the card assembled. So now we need to do some die cutting. Let's see, let's set that aside. We're gonna bring in the front of the card base. We're gonna fold it and burnish it. So we get a nice crisp fold there. This is the front of the card. Let's see, I'm gonna do it that way. I've got this layer that's gonna go on the front of the card, but I'm gonna bring in my image again. I'm gonna be die cutting a hole in there. So when I attach this with liquid glue, I'm gonna try to avoid the center because I'm gonna reuse that blue circle. Now, if you don't get it right, if you glue your images together, it's not a big deal. You'll just cut out a circle separately and then reattach it. So I'm gonna go ahead and go all the way around. I know that my edges are really close because I'm gonna want it kind of in the center, and I know I can do a little bit more on the side. So I go ahead, and this paper, it kind of has a top and a right side up and an upside down, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. Yeah. So there we go. Put that on there. And that's that. Now let's bring in the cut and emboss machine. So the first piece that I'm gonna cut is this. I'm gonna open it, and I want this circle to be about in the center. It doesn't have to be exact, but that's just how I randomly decided that I wanted it to be, where I wanted it to be. So I've got my cut and emboss machine. Oops, my plate already has debris on it from a former project. So let's get that debris off of there because we don't want it to impact our image here. So I'm putting the cardstock in sideways. I'm lining it up. Mainly, I'm a little more concerned about side to side than up and down because I think up and down can go either way. You could, doesn't have to be exact. Putting my plate on top, and then I'm gonna run this through. I'll run it through once, and I am gonna go ahead and run it through a second time. I might need a third time just because it is two pieces of card. It's cardstock and designer series paper. But now the moment of truth. Yes, it worked. Ooh, I got a little bit of glue on the end, but that's okay. It worked. I got that piece out. And the adhesive is good. If you feel like you need to add a little more adhesive, this worked out fine. I don't feel like it's loose, but you could go in at this point and add a little adhesive if you felt you needed to. All right, so we have a little more die cutting to do. We know we want to die cut that circle. My nest, so this is the Nested Essentials, no, the Deckled Circles dies. Oh my gosh, I hit the nest on the brain. So I'm just gonna center that and run it through, and I just chose this one because it nests very well with the larger circle, and that was what I had on hand. So again, that's just the way I decided what I was gonna do when I designed this card. And then this is my happy birthday. And this is a Stylish Shapes die. I am gonna kind of line that up, run that one through. All right. And that aside, I think that's the only die cutting. I have some more stamping to do, but I need to assemble everything so that I know where to stamp. Okay, turn that around. So I've got this piece. I'm gonna go ahead and push out all the little pieces. If you have the die brush, you can do that. I do have the die brush, which attaches to my Take Your Pick tool, but it's on the other side of the room, so I'm gonna just do it this way. There aren't that many pieces that need to be cut through this side because I had a little bit of adhesive, but it worked out okay. So now, I think I'm good. All right, so this layer is gonna go ahead and go there. Get those little pieces out of my way. So I am gonna go ahead and use my liquid glue to attach those two pieces together. Again, don't use too much. You don't want it oozing out all over the place. All right, now let's bring in my card base and the other layers. So this is our basic white layer. We're gonna attach it. It's gonna go in here and we're gonna fold it. We're gonna accordion fold it. So before I attach it, I wanna go ahead and get it good and burnished. Both sides, and I'm actually gonna turn it around that way because I want it to be really, well, I want it to be, there we go. Okay, so before I attach it, because you know, sometimes we make mistakes with stamping, I wanna do my stamping next. So I want to, where's my stamp? Okay, so this is my inside stamp. I want it to be kind of through here, but I can just eyeball that. And I think I'm gonna use the pecan pie ink. You might ask, well, why did I use a pecan pie blender pen? Because I don't have one. So I was very happy to use the bronze because it worked really well. It coordinated really well. So I didn't have to buy another blender pen. All right, and now I'm gonna bring in some green. This is Old Olive. And I need a little piece of scrap paper so that I don't get the image all over. And I'm just gonna do a little leaf on the side because this, if you look at what it's gonna look like, I'm just gonna kind of line it up to give myself an idea. That's gonna be like that, right? And then I just want a little bit, I just wanted a little bit of something here. So you can see it's not gonna come very far over. Just check it, yep. But I don't wanna do it on the blue either because I don't wanna get it everywhere. So here we go. I'm gonna do that. And another image here. All right. And then on the envelope, we gotta have some pretty on the envelope. Let's see, what I'm gonna do. Actually, I think I'm gonna do it here. So I'll do one there. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit more here. Oh, I got a little smudge. But you know, the nice thing about the envelopes, you can blame it on the Postal Service. Is that horrible for me to say? Of course, if you hand deliver it, all bets are off. No excuses, but it's okay. It's paper, it's handmade. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you really wanted to, you could certainly do it over, but I'm not going to. I think it's fine that it's not perfect. All right, so now we are going to assemble our card. This piece of Designer Series paper, I'm gonna put right here. It fits in between these two, this embossing on this panel. Again, just to give you another little surprise. So when you open the card, it's kind of unexpected to have something there. And I really like the way this color coordinates. Brought in a little bit, I wanted to have a little bit more green. There was a lot of brown and blue going on. So this is just centered here. on the inside of the card. And it's a nice idea to go ahead. Give it a good back rub there. Okay, so now this is the part that really ends up being very easy. You can see, you can get it lined up perfectly because it just fits right in there, right? And you can see where that fold line is, so you know your adhesive needs to go here. And of course, I'm going to encourage you not to put too much around the outside. Remember, you've got these holes here, so you don't want that adhesive to come through the holes. So I'm going to do just kind of a line along here and then a little bit along here, not a ton of adhesive. And then before I set it down, I'm kind of going to butt it up to this side, kind of look at how I want it to be oriented. And you know, I've got my other fingers holding down the card. I'm holding it above the card base and kind of deciding, oh, where do I want it to be? And I'm going to put that side in first so that I know I've got it all lined up. And then there we go. Voila. And isn't that cute? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I thought that was so fun. Okay, and now we just have a few other little ways to kind of fancy it up. We'll put some dimensionals on our sentiment, so that'll pop up a little bit. This would be a good card to go through the mail because it really will, it's not very bulky. And I'm using this. This is one of the edges from the dimensionals. So, you know, when you take your dimensionals off, they are, don't throw anything away. Use the edges. You take the centers off and then you need to use the edges. And I'm gonna just kind of center this here. And I have this balmy blue baker's twine. Comes in a 3-pack. Two other colors, lemon lolly, bubble bath, I think. It's a pink. I can't remember if it's bubble bath or if it's petal pink. I think it's bubble bath. Anyway, so I'm just gonna tie a little bow, and this one I wanna be a really teeny tiny bow because the letters are small, and I'm gonna just put it right there. So, scissors, where did I put my scissors? Ah, here they are. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut that end off, and I like to use a glue dot with bows. I'm gonna turn it over. I like to check and see which side of the bow looks a little bit better. And I think that one does. So, my glue dot is here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the end of my Take Your Pick tool and I'm gonna kind of roll this glue dot around so that it becomes very small. And probably the best way to do it is to go ahead and put the glue dot where I want it. And then I'm gonna just use my fingers, but if you have one of those reverse scissors, you could use that as well to pick up the end of the bow. I'll put it right there. There we go. What do you think? I think anybody would be happy to receive that card. It's kind of fun, isn't it? Especially if you have a bird lover in your family, then for sure they would like it. It does need a little help staying down, but that's okay because you know what? They could stand it up too, which is really cute. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope that I inspired you to create something for yourself, whether you do it exactly the same or put your own spin on it. If you'd like to see more of my creations, you can follow me on Facebook or YouTube, even Instagram. I do, if you actually like my page and follow or subscribe, you'll be notified when I put out more videos. And I remembered, I forgot, I have to do my bling. One more thing. So let's bring this out. So these are the pastel adhesive backed sequins. And I forgot to double check to see if they are still available with the new catalog. We have a new annual catalog that has just been released this month. And there are several things that were retired. And so I don't remember. I don't remember if this is going to be in the new catalog or not. There we go, some of those little sequins. But if you would like a copy of the catalog and you do not currently have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that you're working with, send me a message and I'd be happy to send one to you. So there you go. Again, thanks for joining me today. My name is Linda Edwards and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Have a great day. Bye for now.